Hello, I'm Silas Green.
And I'm David Posley. And we're going to talk about intergenerational wealth today. Silas, I know you supposed to dig into the conversation, help us to enlighten and really challenge the thought and the mindset of the people. So, but as of now, what does intergenerational wealth mean to you?
So it's funny because you were the first person that I heard describe the term intergenerational wealth. Okay. So until then, I was thinking of like generational wealth.
Okay.
And I was thinking that was my family's goal. Okay. But when you start defining the term, and you were talking about, if you research it, it said it refers to, right? It refers to. Then I was like, yo, that is not what they mean, right? Generational wealth is like a generational talent. Right. It's like once in this generation, you have this talent, right? Yeah, But intergenerational is like it lasts. Like Michael Jordan is an intergenerational talent, which means you're going to see him in this generation, and in the next generation, you might not see one in the next generation. So he's going to hold up and be able to sustain like across generations. And that's the kind of wealth that we want for our families. You're right, correct. Right? Because we don't want to do all of this work. And in 2 generations, our family is starting back over, right? So we wanted to last, and you challenged us about a 100-year plan, then a 1,000-year plan, and what does that look like? And that just changes how you do things. You know, that means that you have to do something and put into one, you got to do the work. So anybody knows me, they know that I'm workflow specialist. Okay. I know how to come up with aggressive plans that's gonna get you the result. Okay. Right, but you got me thinking about the insurance behind the work, right? So when I pass away, what's my legacy? It's not just the hard work, but it's what I put around it to protect all that hard work I've done, so that 2 generations down the line, my family is not trying to be doing the work again. Yeah,
so and like I said, you answered. It makes me want to follow up, but I'll throw something out there today that I learned about what I say intergenerational wealth or generational wealth. And let's use wills and trust as like the segue, right, into it from a perspective of when you look at a wills and trust, that's only the lack thereof or not having enough money is only 3% of the reason why wealth is lost in 2 generations, right? It's only 3%, right? Bad financial advice, bad legal advice, bad accounting advice. It's only 3%. So when we look at it, one, our goal is to get people to have wills and trusts, right? Do that along with our introduction, our profile, our processes, but it's only 3%. And so I look at it now.
Like 3%?
3%. That's only 3% of the reason why it's lost. It's only 3%,
That's
right?
crazy.
And so 60% is not being able to have these conversations, not having trust, not being able to communicate. And so our goal is first to introduce the will and trust, right? Because that is the ball, right? Like I feel like that's the ball that gets you into the arena. That's the football that gets you in the arena, or the soccer ball that gets you into the football arena, right? And with that just gives you a reason to play. But it isn't the field, it isn't the teams, it isn't the fans, it isn't the front office, it isn't the development around the arena, the outreach programs, the educational camp, the next generation camp, like all these other things that come with a program or a franchise playing a soccer game or playing a football game. So that's what we have to look at when we look at one, either financial capital in this perspective of where we talk about a legacy profile, or a will and a trust, or your money, or your generational wealth. That's the starting point for the conversation, right?
Yeah, what's dope is like, you just mentioned financial capital. So when we think about wills, then we think about like how much money we have, like what happens to your money. Like even the movies that we watched when we were growing up, right? Those families were battling because it was like millions of dollars that grandma had.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, who's gonna get the money?
Yep, right. Right? Yeah, but, grandma soul food. I think when grandma come out with the money in the TV. Is that go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like, but I heard you talk about like 10 different types of capital.
Yes, sir.
Right, and like just run through those. I don't know the 10.
Gotcha. I mean, so the 10 forms of capital, we first break them up into internal capital and equity capital, right? But now I'm learning how we frame them, but we break them up into internal versus equity. And internal starts with spiritual capital. That's like the what God, do you believe in God or not? How do you go about operating like that? What's the moral compass that you use, right? Self capital, overall health. Social capital, your target audience, the people that you engage with. Your human capital, your team, like you and I, like people that you go about achieving a goal with. Instructional capital, how you intend to teach, right? And intellectual capital is what do you teach? Like what's the expertise you have? So all those are the internal capital, right?
Okay.
And then even in the equity capital, this is the infrastructure. I call it the infrastructure to allow you to sustain the other portions, right? So that's the financial capital, everything everybody knows, right? The money. This is the way we used to keep score, right? But now we have commercial capital as well. That's the business. That's the 530 Scholars. That's a brand, right? Lottery pick. Then now you have public capital, right? That's the relationships we have with incentives, right? Any grant, right? The MacArthur Foundation, those type of organizations, land banks, Cook County Land Bank, those type of organizations that offer incentives or aid, right, via government-based, right, funding. And so then now you have natural capital, right, land, any inheritance that you receive, and those make up, right, all the forms of capital, right? And so now our goal is to make sure you start to keep score in all of them. Because they matter. They're either the bag you fumble or the bag you secure.
And what were the two categories that you broke?
Internal based.
Internal.
And equity based.
So you were, I don't know if you just mentioned it now, but you were talking about human capital. Which category explain human capital?
Okay, so to simply human capital, like that's your family. And you heard the term, your network in terms creates your net worth, right? Human capital. That's a good way to say human capital. Your network, either your net worth, right? They're telling you the people that you know, the people that are around you that influence you determines how much you're worth, right? And why they say worth, not what's in your bank account, because me and you can sign a deal that gives me equity in this, your facility, because it may help me in my business and my partnerships. We didn't exchange any dollars, but my net worth grew. My financial capital may not have grown, right? It may have grown indirectly. My overall net worth, due to our human capital, our relationship, that has grown now, right? I always say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And if I got a friend who's gonna give me a building, I ain't have to pay for the building, but I own the building.
So what's the difference between that and social capital?
So social capital, that's the person that we're going to target this entity. Let's say every family that's listening to this recording, right? The 5 to 10 family members that make up the new institutions that we're looking to support and to create and to grow. Like that's a target audience, or a business person that's looking to position themselves for scale. And they may not have a family yet, but they want to position their business to be able to sell it so that they can get a return for their efforts on the principal side, not just the income side. And then that's also a young family member that's between the 7th grade and 16, 18 who want to go into college. They're going to come to 530 Scholars. And so that's a social capital. That's a target audience. More importantly, that same family, that 40 to 50 who has those kids, that's our target audience. So that's a little bit different than you and I supporting each other to go engage in it.
So when you're thinking about social capital, then, I'm a pattern, simple kind of thinking. So I'm thinking the word social, just like social media, right? Social capital is like
your followers.
Something like followers on social media.
That's a great way
to put it. Who's talking about you? Who can you tap into? Who can you activate?
Exactly.
If you were a community organizer, it's the people that you can bring out. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, so that's dope. All right, so so we focus on the money all the time. Right, but there's 9 other things that we could be focusing on that also generate money, right? So
that's why I like to use value. That's why I like to use value.
Tree.
Exactly.
Right, and those are money trees.
Yes.
Right,
I love that term.
And then the financial capital is just the leaves that we harvesting, right? but we're not building trees in those other 9 areas. Right.
I'd say that because a tree. Why do you say family tree? Like what?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Why do you say that? Right?
Bars.
Because right, and so that's our goal, to be able to get into that position so that we're synthesizing the idea of planting 100-year things. And one of the most things that it's an action, it's activity, it gets you to thinking about long term is tree planting. Getting a seed, planting a seed. It's helping kids support. One of the dopest things I saw is at a school. I was at my son's soccer game out in the west suburbs, and they had planted trees in the names of the givers of some of the families. So now the families that gave to this school, now they will have a physical representation of that gift that will be there for generations to come, that actually represents them, that their financial capital may have created in that scenario. Who knows? Different ways that came about, right? But now it's a unique way to show longevity.
Yeah.
And that's the ideology of what intergenerational wealth is promoting the longevity and creating, like you say, more family trees or more money trees or family trees that have bigger, greener roots, that have a lot more leaves on them, and the ones that fall are harvested, used for a self-sustainable reason, preferably on your land, right? And so now here's a challenge to people. How many in a year, in 2 years, 3 years, how many different trees can we get planted on new families' land in the name of, hey, this is, we're going to call it the legacy athlete tree. But now this is us challenging families, challenging people. How many new trees can we get planted on new family land?
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, that's absolutely dope. Like, cause when it shifts the way you think about stuff, right? So it forces you to shift in the way you're thinking about it, cause you're thinking about planting trees, right? And you thinking about just financial capital, and you realize that that's really not the big picture, right? Cause I'm thinking about just like education-wise, right? Like I can. Let's not even get to education. You know, I'm gonna go on the soapbox now, right? You were talking about your network.
Yep. Okay.
And I want to just bring it real simple because we're both dads.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And when I was named, I know you're a junior.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And when I was naming my son, at the time, like I didn't have a lot of financial capital.
Okay. Gotcha.
Also, I wasn't long in the tooth, as they should say, as I am now. Right? So it wasn't as wise. And I named him Caleb.
Okay.
Caleb was way more popular than I am. So like, he went viral. Everybody knows Caleb. Everybody loves Caleb. So he has his own name. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have named him after me. Okay. At that time, I was like, I don't know if I built up my name big enough to name him after me, right? Okay. But now that I'm thinking about the different trees, right, and the different like human capital and networks, relationships, and so forth, like I'm reconsidering that, right? And I'm thinking about the importance of him being able to use my name, right? Even when I'm not here, right? Because the relationships I built, even if he becomes more popular, like Robert Downey Jr., it's probably more popular than Robert Downey, right? But even if he becomes more popular, God willing, he becomes way more popular. Right. Like people gonna be like, oh, that's Caleb's dad, right? But for his starting point, to be able to be my relationships that I've built, my solid relationships, right? My network, for him to start there, and that's his platform that he launches from his life on, I think it would have been worth it. You know, and he still will do it. Right. But I want him to do it like naturally. I want him to present an ID and say Silas Green. They be like, Silas Green, Mr. Green, right? And you pick up that banking relationship where I left off. Right. Just by your ID. You know? I mean, and that makes sense. And so, like, even from the start, you challenged me when you mentioned human capital in your family. And because, like, just today, I was thinking, like, man, like the best team I got is the team that's in my four walls, right? And the ones that literally were birthed from me, right? And all of them that we train, that's I can build a company if I leverage their strengths well. They don't have to do what I need. I just have to do what they do, leverage what they do well, right? And so that's one thing from a human capital perspective. Like, how do you leverage the network that's in your home, right? In this manner, first of, like you said, Caleb went viral, right? So that also allowed you to leverage
your team for the success of whatever the Green family is attempting to do. And then secondarily from there, mentioning it, me being a junior, me and my wife, we lost a child, right? In between our oldest two. And so I believe that was a boy. And that boy name was not going to be David, right? That name was going to be Daniel. Or so after Daniel the Lion's Den, and my wife's name is Danielle. So, but we got Dana after her, so that's and then David came. But what I did was, David is named David after me, but my brother-in-law's name is David, and David's middle name is Wade. He's named after my brother, middle name, right? So he's still DWP like all our kids, but he's not the third.
Right.
Right. So he has David Posley, but he has a level of identity and that's separate, because growing up as a junior, there's also some horror stories to the lifestyle. It's some of them, and then it's some identity, right? And so because up until really, let's say the last 5 years, I didn't introduce myself as David Wayne Posley Jr., right? Until I had to realize that there's only a David Wayne Posley Jr. unless you reference me by my nickname, right? That's a nickname, that's not my name, right? And so that was a maturity process. Like that was an identity, knowing like I have to say David Wayne Posley Jr. because there's more David Posleys other than my dad. There's more David W. Posleys other than me, right? And so there's only one David Wayne Posley Jr., right? But now the power of understanding how those interconnections with David Wade Posley, he's now directly connected to his two uncles, right? So that opens up a lot of different lines, a lot of different identity, a lot of different connections that comes with a power of a name. Because when someone refers to you, they're calling out a name.
Yeah, and that's a call to us as men.
Yes.
Right? So if we do name the kids after ourselves, then it's a different level of responsibility. Right? So, I quoted on like my social media, I was like, become an ancestor, right? That is powerful enough for your descendants to call upon, right? So you want to be, even outside
do
of
a
this
legacy
body,
introduction, and we'll make sure that happens.
Right. Outside of this body, like I want to live a life that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's a small circle, those people want to know that this dude was real about what he was doing. Yep. You say that name, I move.
Yep.
And in the spiritual realm, it works the same way, right?
Exactly.
Like, so if we are, spiritual, then we're talking about God as our Father, right? If you speak that name, then things are supposed to move, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And as a reflection of that, right?
That is our responsibility.
Like a lot of times people are looking up here, right? I'm saying that's in me.
Exactly.
Right? So that's in me. So that part of me has to live so impressively, so intentionally, right? That when somebody says my name, right, then things move. So when my child says, hey, I'm Silas's daughter, right, I'm Silas's son, then they say, oh, you should have led with that. Right? Say, let me take you through this door, right?
Exactly.
And that is
wealth.
Worth more than financial capital, especially the type of $20,000 life insurance policies we pass now.
Exactly.
Right? So we be like, I got life insurance, it's like $20,000, right?
And accidental. So
right.
When you die, I thought we had. Well, she just had AD&D. That's the whole thing. Accidental death and dismemberment. Right? It's not full. It's not actually on your death. It's if something happens on accident, maybe. Yeah. Right? It's so many things, but that's the point of if there's anything is why I keep mentioning the legacy introduction, the profile, because these tools and things that we work so hard to start to give you the time to take a step out of your life to see your whole life. Yeah. To start know that there's gaps. Like as much as we work on, and this is what I look at, right? As much as we work on whatever business that we have, right? Anything. As much as we work on whatever business, whatever job, whatever thing that we're managing, right? Operating. Whether we may not be the owner, but whatever we're operating, right? If you think about how much time, effort, preparation, and recovery you spend on that, imagine that there's something that's more important that's not getting any of that talent. Right. And that's your family, your legacy, and your life.
And health. Yeah.
Right? And so when we talk about doing a legacy introduction, doing a legacy profile, these things that help you to prepare to do a legacy plan, it's getting you the start to separate, all right, I have to perform every day, but the person that's performing every day has to be managed. We have to perform every day, but we have to be managed. So just like there's a board meeting every quarter for a company, there needs to be a family meeting every quarter for the family. Just like there's a shareholders meeting for the owners of a corporation, there needs to be a shareholders meeting for the family, right? The elders of the family, right? Just like there's a vote in the shareholders meeting and an agenda and a list of things on that, that's the same thing. And I'm saying that this is not easy to do.
Right. But
it's necessary. That means you have to do it and sit with people and talk to them in the 30 seconds that they're going to give you because you've been waiting 3 hours at their office for it. Because if you're not there, you're not even getting the 30 seconds. But that 30 seconds is the only 30 seconds that's going to get you to the 3 minutes. And that's the only 3 minutes that's going to get you to a 30 minutes. And that's the only 30 minutes that's going to get you to a professional 30 minutes. And that's the only professional 30 minutes that's going to get you to a quarterly professional 30 minutes with the budget. Then I'm still talking about the same family. I'm still talking about the same family operation. I'm still talking about the same people that's in your family. But now the intentionality changes the power of the family name.
So consistency. Right, persistency. Right, be persistent, be consistent, and just build on those conversations. So basically, what I'm getting from it, I like to get stuff done. So, and I like to do stuff at a certain level. So it's not like this huge Herculean effort meeting that happens the first time. It's like you mention it to them. Then you have conversation about it. Then you mention it again. It becomes part of your normal conversation. And then the conversations get longer. Then the conversations get scheduled. And we're just changing that mindset little by little. So it's like with sculpting that mindset with a chisel. Like breaking off pieces of old mindset.
I told my wife this morning, round off the edges. Right? You know what I'm saying? You round off the edges so that way you can, because at some day, if you don't start today, won't come. Right. But someday, if you start start today, could be today, tomorrow, and the next day. Right? So that's why, like, and I use the same thing on my self-capital, right? One of the biggest things that's transitioning from being an elite athlete is not getting fat. Because our schedule.
Hey, hold on. I didn't know this type of conversation we was gonna have. You know what I'm saying?
I said fat, not normal, man. You good?
I gotta suck it in. All right, go ahead.
But in that, I was just talking to another, like either a professional athlete that even more elite. But it's like we have to work so hard just to maintain. Right? To get to a level. And it's like certain things is I encourage so many people and family, just start. Right? If you just start and do something every day. Right now, from a weightlifting, I just do 10 push-ups and I'd use a 15-pound band right now. But just because I haven't did certain things at consistency for so long, anything helps. Right. Anything consistently helps until it's so easy. I'll know, all right, it's time to step up a little bit. But if I go try to become, in the first day, go try to write a 50-page legacy plan. Right. And tell my family, hey, we about to go execute this plan. Right. They not prime, prep, you know what I'm saying, marinated for the baking. Yeah. Because this is a hard, hot process. I think that's a great analogy, right? Just think about a turkey. Right, all those things, all the stuff you got to do before you put it in the oven, and then you got to make sure it be right before it gets too, you know what I'm saying, too dry to make sure it's right juicy. Then you pray over it, then it sit down, and then you sit and enjoy it. Yeah, so you could cook. I love that. Yeah. All right. So check it out, man. So I want to put a pin in this conversation. I want to pick it up at a later point. But how would somebody begin the conversations
on how to become how to build a legacy plan?
So first, we do right now. We're hot off the press. This is the first time we're doing a promo of doing a legacy introduction, and you'll get a will with it. If you just come sit video call 30 minutes, you can find us at David W. Posey Jr. on Facebook, or The Legacy Athlete, or D.W. Posey Jr. on Facebook or IG, D.W. Posey Jr., David Posey Jr., Legacy Athlete. Any of those platforms, message, we can sit down, send you the information about the legacy introduction, because that's the first thing anybody and everybody needs to do. If you have under $150,000, you need a legacy introduction. If you have over $150,000, you need a legacy profile, and with the profile, we do a trust, right? So that's a quick number to separate how we introduce you into what we do.
So I've been listening to our conversation. So is that 150 financial capital?
That's 150 financial
capital. Okay.
That's 150 financial because those tools that you use in a trust will, they are based on the terms, right? What the other part of creating it is all the other forms of capital that we'll leverage in order to take the, again, we're still only talking about remember the soccer ball and the football, right? But it's 150,000 of the financial capital to be able to know which part that you need to really address in. Come in at the will if you want to, if you're under that. And you can say either investable assets or that's your income, right? So either one is a good one to do. You know, 150,000, wherever you at, that you either above or underneath that, you know what to talk to us about.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. Well, good conversation. We need to have more of these conversations in our community.
Absolutely.
But this is a good start.
Hey, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Y'all click the link.